and welcome to my secret garden. It's a secret garden because I found this place by accident a few years ago when I just moved here, and for whatever reason not that many people know about it and not that many people come here. So whenever I come here, I'm mostly alone, and it just feels like this place is only mine and belongs only to me and the crows on the background. So I like to come here to contemplate, to listen to birds, to film. And today I am bringing you here as well. I thought that this will be a perfect place to answer some of your questions, and I got them here on my phone. There were quite a few interesting questions, and actually a little cheeky reason why I decided to do a Q&A is because I wanted to find out what you are interested in and what kind of content you wanted to see. So doing a little Q&A is kind of a cheatsy way out of it. So there were a few pretty interesting questions, and there were a few also quite personal questions. So I think while I'm here, I will answer those personal questions first. I always get asked where I am from, and I kind of dislike that question, but I am gonna answer it. I was born in Latvia and I moved to England when I was 16. I am 30 now, so you can count how many years I've lived here. I must say I have a little bit of a I guess confusion about who I really am and where I really belong. I moved here quite young, and I put effort into adopting the culture as my own and learning the language. I mean, I still have the accent, but I wanted to make it my own, if that makes sense. I don't really have an attachment to my birth country, neither mentally nor culturally. And if anything, I do consider England my home. Some of you were also quite curious about my husband. There was a question about how we met and whether he would like to be on camera with me for the Q&A, and I am sure that he would be flattered to know that you would like to see him in the Q&A, but he doesn't really enjoy being on camera, so I am gonna respect that, but I will make sure to ask. About how we met, it's kind of a cliche-ish story. I was a singer and he was a guitarist in the same rock band, and we were in a band together for about a year before we started dating. That was many moons ago when we were still teenagers in that rock, or shall I say metal band. Yeah. There we go. Going back to questions about the UK, somebody asked, what's the reason I moved here? Well, there are actually multiple reasons. First of all, I had an opportunity to move, so I took it. I was 16, I came to study at a college. College in the UK is basically an intermediate stage between school and the university, so it's kind of, you could say, like a high school. The reason why I came here to study so soon, I haven't finished school in Latvia, was because I actually wanted to study something specific that wasn't available in Latvia at that time, 14 years ago. I wanted to do media and film, and at the time it was only a growing industry in Latvia. There were no courses available, not what I wanted. So I came here because, well, the UK has a pretty established film and media industry. And then there is a third reason, which is I always knew that I'm going to move away. I quite frankly never felt like I belonged to Latvia. I remember very clearly being a 12-year-old and thinking that I will move. I will not live in this country forever. It's a very young age to think that way, but I always knew it. It's funny because when I was a child, around 11 years old, I visited the UK for the first time, and I must say I absolutely hated it. I stayed with a family in Exeter, and then I also went to London for a day. I did not want to come here, but then something just shifted in my brain and I thought, well, I want to give it another go, and I actually want to learn more about it. And when I had an opportunity to come, I did. I studied at the college on a scholarship. It was a pretty new college, so I think they were trying to attract international students. And I stayed. It took me quite a long time to adapt, and I didn't speak English whatsoever at the time. I enjoyed the learning process. I enjoyed learning a different way to live. I essentially had to completely reinvent myself starting from the age of 16. What are my favorite places in the UK? That's a very good question, because ever since I moved out of London, I lived in London for 10 years, I tried to explore as much of the UK as possible. I would say that it depends on the season, and in spring I do think that London is a lovely place to visit, because there are so many beautiful blooming trees. There are a lot of cherry blossom trees, a lot of magnolias, and it's just very lovely to walk around different London neighborhoods and looking at cherry tree lined streets and magnolias that are growing in somebody's garden. While I would not live there again, I still think it's pretty great. Springtime in Oxfordshire and in the Cotswolds is very lovely as well. We have so many beautiful woodlands that are just full of bluebells in spring at around April-May time. Then in summer I love going to North Wales, also Peak District and Lake District. And then if I had to choose my most favorite place in the UK, it would be Scotland, of course. My heart just sings every single time I step on this land, and every single time I visit. I always say that, oh, I'm just gonna stay there. I don't want to go away. I want to live there. Scotland just has everything I love. Lakes, sea, rivers, mountains. The only problem is that apparently it gets really windy. And I was really lucky, because every single time I visited Scotland, it was so sunny or still and warm, kind of like today. I have not experienced a really ruthless and cold and windy Scotland. And another thing is that we are quite lucky here in the south of England that we don't have that many ticks and mosquitoes. And in Scotland, you do get them, and you get the midges. I'm afraid of all different creepy crawlies. I only just started making friends with bees, so I'm not sure about ticks and midges, but I do love, love, love Scotland. And I think there was a general question about my favorite place to visit. If we take a favorite place to visit anywhere in the world, I would say it would be Italy and Mexico. Would you like to write a book? Yes, I would. I would love to write and illustrate a book, which is why I started painting in the first place. What inspires you in everyday life? I think this inspires me. Nature. Autumn. I feel like this is the best time for me. I draw so much inspiration from the colors, from the singing birds, from the golden trees and the falling leaves. I just want to create so much more in autumn and in spring as well. I love these stages in life and in nature when things are changing, when nothing is stagnant, when everything when everything is about to change, when life keeps you on your toes. I like it. It kind of makes me calm, but also makes me excited and maybe somewhat anxious. But I think this is the best time to create. Oh, I think that was a raven. Sorry. I'm not answering this question properly, am I? Because I'm too distracted by everything around me. Nature inspires me a lot. Poems, literature, fiction inspires me a lot. People seeing people who are curious and interested in life, interested to know more about life, that inspires me. Movement, I guess, lack of stagnation. I think to stay inspired, to find inspiration for life, for anything, you have to keep moving. It can be slow things like reading a book or reading a poem, or it can be going on a very big hike somewhere in the mountains. Can be anything. Brain movement and physical movement. There we go. Okay, let's go and take a walk, and then I will answer a few more questions. I think to some questions I can't quite give a very short answer, so if I haven't answered your question in this video, it's quite likely that I will make a longer video about it. But let me answer a couple more. As an introvert who likes alone time but also likes to be with people, how do you explain to people that you like them but need your own space? And I think it's such a great question, but I struggle with it too. One thing I truly believe in, though, is that when it's the person that is meant to be for you, they're gonna understand it. They're gonna understand your need for alone time, but also your desire to connect. I feel like there is a misconception about us introverts that we don't want people around us, which is actually quite opposite. I feel like introverts do want people around them, but they want a deeper connection. Otherwise, we get burnt out with conversations or social situations so much. And before, when I was younger, I used to mask as an extrovert. I didn't really know much about myself, and in order to survive in social situations, and I felt like in order to get somewhere in life, I had to be an extrovert. So I became one, and I was masking as one for many years until I understood that actually is very unnatural to me, and what is natural to me is spending time alone, doing things by myself, recharging quietly in the way that I need, not sharing my energy with everybody I meet. Slowly I started attracting people like that as well. Before, I always felt guilty whenever I said no to a social situation. But you know what? If a person you're talking to finds that upsetting, that just means that that is not exactly your person. But of course, we can't just cut out everybody that is not our person from our life, with friendships that are more energetically draining, but the ones that you still cherish. I think scheduling time for hangouts, for conversations, for parties, whatever you want to do, is very important. What I would usually do if I know that I will be doing something that drains my energy, I would try, if possible, to schedule it in such a way that I have a pretty easy day to sort of mentally prepare for it, so that I'm ready to communicate, so that I'm not knackered, absolutely tired by the end of the day, and then I go into a social situation. I try to make sure that the day itself is rather slow, that the work that I'm doing is rather slow. It's a weekend, for example, and that after the next day is also slow, that I don't have anything scheduled for the day after a social engagement, because that gives me enough time to mentally prepare and recharge in whatever way I need to recharge. Do be mindful though of your own patterns. I must add this. I, for example, do tend to disappear. If you have people who you cherish, if you have friendships you cherish, make sure that you also put some effort to stay in touch with them. Another question was, how do you manage anxiety and stay peaceful, calm and collected? And maybe it is not a very satisfactory answer, but this, spending time alone in nature, away from this, away from computer, away from any distractions that make my mind noisy and busy and anxious. I think becoming calm and peaceful and collected is very much a deliberate action, but at the same time, I don't think that there is a formula that will work for everyone. I was never naturally peaceful. I am naturally a very anxious person with a very busy mind. And when I say naturally, of course, there is nothing really particularly natural to being constantly anxious, but that becomes your natural response as the result of certain perhaps traumatic experiences in life. For example, going back to the previous question where I said that I was a high-functioning, masking extrovert, but it wasn't natural to me. That was essentially a response to a certain situation in life, to a certain trauma in life, let's say. Moving to the countryside and spending time in nature, it really just helped me process these traumas. I removed myself from that busy, competitive environment I was in, an environment where I constantly felt the need to perform. And I put myself into a very different, much more peaceful environment, and I learned new things about myself. Of course, it's not possible for everybody to just take themselves out and remove themselves from their physical or mental environment. But I think there are small things, and for each and every one of us, they will be different things that would work, that would calm our mind. And for me, for example, is going to nature. It's not staring at the phone, it's leaving it. Of course, right now I'm recording, so that's why I have all of this. Just in your regular daily life, leaving it behind, going away without the phone, observing and being present, bringing yourself, your mind, your body into the present moment, trying to feel what your body feels, paying attention from tip of your toes to your head, bringing this awareness almost in a meditative state, but you don't necessarily need to sit there and meditate. You can go out for a walk for just half an hour. I think the more present you become, the more aware you become of what's going on inside or with your body, the better you become at managing your emotions and staying more peaceful and collected and less reactive. I used to be a very, very reactive person, but I taught myself to think before I act. That was the most difficult thing for me. I always acted on impulse. And notice that I don't say silence your emotions. I don't say stop feeling the bad emotions, stop overthinking. No, all of those responses, they're telling you something about your situation. Listen to those emotions. Find a way to calm yourself down, not by forcing yourself into silence, into peace, but by processing and maybe documenting those emotions, staying present with them. This is something that is helping me, staying present and focusing on the moment that I'm in. Okay, I am actually getting pretty cold, so I'm gonna head back home and I will continue a little bit later. It's actually a different day already, as you might be able to tell, but I thought I will answer last 3 questions. This video is turning out quite long, but I think that's the nature of these type of videos, so I hope you are enjoying it so far, and thank you for sticking with me until now. These 2 questions are by Maite and Raghava. You asked me to say your name, so hello, and thank you for asking your question. First question is, how do you balance online life and real life, and how do you find time to concentrate on either? I think that's a rather complicated question, and I feel like nowadays, in our current reality, it's so difficult to balance both. I personally try to set very clear boundaries between the two, because I lead so much of my life online, and my life online and my real life blend together. They are very similar. What I show you online is what I do in real life as well. I find that those boundaries, they blend so much and it becomes so much more difficult to balance. I feel like if I'm not careful, both will collide, and quite frankly, the online will overtake, because so much of my work, entertainment, long distance friendships, family, everything is online nowadays. Prioritizing and scheduling is very, very important. There are clear times when I allow myself to be online and touch anything to do with technology and communicate with people online, and there are clear times when I don't allow phone, computer or camera to come anywhere close to me. For example, and I must say that I do fail at it sometimes as well, but I don't allow myself to be on my phone or on my computer on weekends and between 8 p.m. and 9 a.m. on weekdays. I'm not perfect at it, but these are the boundaries that I have to set for myself. I don't receive notifications on any of my socials, and my phone never comes out if I'm spending time with someone or during meal times at home or at restaurants and on holidays. I always either leave it in the room or in the bag. That way, anything online requires my deliberate attention, picking up the phone, opening up the computer, and deliberately looking at it. I try to set clear boundaries and not allow myself just to impulsively take the phone and doom scroll. And because I don't receive notifications on social media or for any messages, I have to go into the app and check it. And this is the only way that helps me separate the online and the real life, because I do enjoy both as well, just like you do. I think that it's too easy to just disappear into the online world and not be present in real time, and it can mess with your brain sometimes. And as a content creator, sometimes when I see a very beautiful moment that I really want to capture, but I don't have my camera or phone on me, I do experience a bit of fear of missing out. Before, I used to get really anxious about not being able to capture a beautiful moment, but I don't think this is how it should be. Life and beautiful moments are meant to be experienced with our own eyes. Sharing it with someone in my physical space, and it will keep me inspired for days to come. But in real time, the moment will be only mine. And this leads me to the next question, which is, how do you manage the fear of missing out? I think I will have to make a longer video about this, because I actually have so many thoughts, but I will give you a shorter answer here. You see, I think over the past few years I actually changed a lot and simply accepted myself for who I am. I'm not sure if your question is about fear of missing out in life in general, or if it's about missing out in social life. When it comes to missing out in social life, I don't think I am afraid of missing out at all. If anything, I still have a pretty busy life in general, and I do take a pretty long time to recharge. So I have to prioritize. I do have to take a lot of time for myself. So I do schedule anything that has to do with social situations and my alone time, my self-care time. And self-care time always takes a priority. And life in general, I guess, it was a very long journey of acceptance. I was always afraid of missing out when I was younger. I had a very big goals, very big ambitions, and changing course was unacceptable. I had to persevere at every single goal that I had, no matter how unhappy it made me. Otherwise, I considered it a failure. Right now, when I look back at it, I realize how actually unhealthy that was. I don't think that every single goal, especially the ones that we set when we are 15, 16, is actually good for us. I was very competitive and very aggressive at going for my goals as well, and it took me so much self-reflection, so much growth to understand that these goals that I set when I was 16 are not what I want anymore and not who I am anymore in the present life. I did mention in one of my earlier answers that I had this constant need to compete and perform and put on a mask, and I want to address it in this question. Instead of constantly competing, I realized that a healthier and more productive way is to focus on myself and develop my own skills. This constant need to be better, to be more successful, actually prevented me from being that. Actually, it's funny because right now I think I am most successful that I have ever been. For decade or more, I struggled to succeed at things that I wanted to achieve, but it was when I
removed myself from that environment when actually a lot of my dreams started coming true, and I became just much better at everything that I do. And I think that a lot of it has to do with letting go, with looking inwards instead of constantly looking at whatever everybody else is doing. I stopped constantly looking at who's doing what and trying to keep up with trends and hustle culture, and just do what feels true to myself. It's really strange how it works, because the more I became at peace with who I am on the inside, the more my life actually improved on the outside. And I do want to add a little bit about slow living, because a lot of people do think that slow living means giving up on your dreams, and I truly do not believe that. If anything, it's about being aware of how your surroundings and behavior impact your way of getting there. To some, this constant go, go, go type of behavior does work, while others also need a slower and gentler pace to get to the same results and to the same goals in the same time. Quite often it is about figuring out what works for you. So there we go. I hope you enjoyed this Q&A, and thank you so much for asking all of these questions. If you do have any more questions, please keep them coming, because I might as well just make a separate video about each of them, because some of them were actually pretty good and pretty deep, and I have a lot to say, hence why this video is so long. Thank you so much for watching it and sticking with me until the end, and I will see you next time.